It's August 11th, and we have exactly the movement we announced on this channel. Yesterday and the day before, we were in the 65,000 zone, and we had been saying that the movement we expected for the progression over 7 to 10 days was to hit 64,000, and then, if more time passed, to drop below that 64,000. Yesterday, we saw exactly that movement. As soon as volume started coming in, with the opening of the New York Stock Exchange, starting the week, so to speak, the dynamic movement we always expect, we experienced that movement. Now let's look at the forecast starting from today. We have already placed the price in the 64,000 zone, and we're going to see what the strong hands have prepared for us. Because you know that the strong hands, that is institutions and people or groups of people with a lot of money, always move the chart, all the charts, especially Bitcoins, at their whim. They always try to make retail investors think the move is going to be in one direction by using indicators, often patterns of Japanese candlesticks, without being accompanied by volume. Retail enters a position and the strong hands do their business, practically, because the strong hands don't have, let's put it this way, feelings. They simply have a strategy and they follow it to the letter. What we try, by all means, is to see those clues that strong hands often leave behind, especially with volume. We look at them one by one. We associate them both in the larger time frame, 4 hours, which is our headquarters, and smaller ones, 15, 30 minutes. And we make entries like you are seeing. Very, very good in trading. Let's go ahead and analyze this chart, this position of the strong hands, and what we can expect starting today, August 11th. If you are interested in making money with trading, whether professionally or as a second job, I have designed a course where you will stop looking at indicators and start understanding what the market is really doing, what the strong hands are really doing, and you will be able to make money the way they do. We continue with the analysis. You've seen that we followed the movement very, very well. There have been pauses that certainly surprised us. For example, this long pause at 65,000. We also saw an incursion a few weeks ago below 60,000, which reached 58,000, also very long, which in a way surprises us. But what we have to keep in mind is that the strong hands are all the time trying to surprise us and trying to deceive us. We are like doing a counter-deception. That is, we're trying to see the deception they are putting in front of us, right in front of our faces. Okay, we set support and resistance levels because you know that price action always follows all charts, regardless of the strategies you follow or the strategies the strong hands follow. 60, 68,000, and 64,000. Support is 60,000, resistance is 68,000, and the channel midpoint is 64,000. We could almost make a pseudo channel, because we are seeing that there are channels or support resistance levels that practically have no impact on the larger time frame. But when we drop down to a 1 hour, 30-minute, or 15-minute time frame, they start to have a lot of push. And here we are, seeing that this push is almost translating into longer-term support and resistance levels. In other words, they're solidifying on the short time frame. 15, 30 minutes, 1 hour, and we are starting to see them repeated very, very often on this time frame. That's why we can place a pseudo channel in this area. Let's set it in another color. As you can see, a sky blue, and let's mark these zones. These two zones are marking a pseudo channel for us within the main channel. This main channel, you already know that in the long term in Wyckoff, it's a clear accumulation. And we are going to wait in the medium to long term for that breakout of 70, 80, even 90 for within a few months. That has repercussions in the sense that it tells us what Wyckoff phase we are in and what we can expect. The Wyckoff phase in the long term is accumulation that goes from a support to a resistance, from a support to a resistance. Although we have seen that this pseudo channel that is forming since July 3rd, I mean, it's been almost a month and a half. It is having more strength than what the two extremes that are marking us on the large time frame are. That's why what we can do is also be very careful when the price approaches one of these two pseudo supports or resistances, which is down at 62,300 and up at 65,600. We are also going to keep these two figures very much in mind. Very well. The forecast must always be made, taking into account the volume, and what we do is see how those volume spikes enter into hot zones or zones of interest. That is to say, when the strong hands always operate with volume spikes, meaning they give the price a nudge and the price in the next 3, 4, or 5 candles moves in the direction that the strong hands nudge has indicated. We see that there has only been one touch, but we cannot consider it excessively a touch from strong hands because we need to see more volume inflow and a smaller spread. In this case, it was perfectly accompanied by a huge spread on the 4-hour chart, always with a significant volume inflow. We cannot consider that an action by the strong hands. We could indeed consider this touch that we see here with a practically non-existent spread and a wick on the upper side. It was signaling a bearish movement to us, but as you can see, the movement, even though it was signaled at this moment with this touch, took a while to manifest. But in the end, it does manifest. It is often what I always tell you in these videos, that the clues given by the strong hands on the chart are very, very reliable. What we don't know is the time in which they are going to manifest. We would like it, and it often happens, but it's not always the case for a clue to appear. For example, this wick, this volume entry, that it approaches, in this case, the pseudo channel, pseudo resistance, and the movement suddenly appears downwards, which is what it is signaling. That is the perfect situation, and the situation we are always looking for in trading. But sometimes we also find ourselves in this situation. It appears the arrival at the zone of, what can I say, of pseudo resistance. The wick appears at the top, the volume appears. However, we have to hold that position for a long time, even with rises that make us doubt that the entry was good. And in the end, it appears. That's why time, many times, I tell you, I insist, time in trading is relative. It's another element that the strong hands play with, because people, human beings individually, don't have a controlled sense of time. They want something, and they want it now. That time generates an emotion. That is to say, a fear of exiting the chart or greed to continue beyond what is necessary. And the strong hands play with that too. Very well, we already have those elements in place that I was telling you about reaching 64. We will probably see a bit of a pullback, as is normal, but the play is to touch this support of the pseudo channel and then probably break it. And I would look for the real support, that is to say, the 60,000 support. In these 7 to 10 days, we are going to see how the price starts to play in this zone. First, touch this pseudo channel, probably a pullback, then break, retest from below, and then hit the 60,000. As I always tell you, there is always a possibility on the table, because you know that the strong hands, as they try to deceive us, can also delay that movement and make it longer. A clue that tells us that could happen is the entry of the volume spike accompanied by a spread consistent with that volume spike. A consistent spread is exactly what we saw yesterday. Volume comes in and a spread of the candles consistent with it comes in. If we were to see this in green, it's telling us that the anticipated move, that is the taking of short positions, is going to be delayed a bit. Like I said, it's a remote option B, but you always have to keep in mind the possibilities that the chart gives, what we're seeing, before getting into it. Very good. Position for 7 to 10 days, you know? First, pseudo channel, 62,300 to 64,000, possible plays, breakouts. Then, a bit later on, a clear breakout, retest from below, and looking for 60,000. That is the move, option A. It's the move we are waiting for. I wanted to tell you about the case of the VIP group we have on Telegram, where I give the 2 positions I take every day. And there's also a parallel group that also belongs to the VIP, where people discuss their impressions, their strategies. It's very enjoyable. There are 100 spots because we don't want, too much noise. Rather, we want us all to know each other more or less, for everyone's opinions to be respected, and those 100 spots are already taken. The only way to get in is if you sign up on the exchange, mxec.com, which is where I always use all the charts and make all my positions. On that exchange, for me, it's the best. And you make your first deposit. In that case, the exchange would give you $50 and I would give you 1 free month of VIP Telegram. I'm Michael Vasquez. This is Daily Bitcoin Analysis. I really appreciate you watching this video. As I always tell you, this is not financial advice, but rather I am sharing my experience with you after more than 15 years in professional trading. I also wanted to mention, I almost forgot the situation with the August challenge. As you know, I entered below 64,000. It's about to reach that zone for the TP to trigger. We have been, as I was telling you, at 65. It has been there longer than we expected, which is why the challenge has dragged on. However, I believe that this week that TP will finally trigger. We will get back into that dynamic again, and let's see how far we get. We started on August 1st with $500. Let's see how far we get by August 31st. And whatever I earned from the 500, well, last month it was $592 that I earned. I'm going to raffle it off among all of you who meet the criteria I mentioned earlier. That you sign up at mxc.com and make your first deposit. See you tomorrow. There are many clues. You can't miss any of them. See ya.